The story begins with an argument in a KTV bar involving the protagonist, Jinsu Han, a third-year student specializing in general surgery. He punched a guy, Jinju Kim, who was touching his girlfriend, causing him to fall onto the sofa. However, Han's action resulted in him losing his job as a surgeon due to Kim's influence, and he struggled to find another job due to his poor family background. One day, Han was fortunate enough to find an investor who offered him the chance to open a small private hospital. However, the investor disappeared and then lost all of his money. After reporting to the police, he discovered that the investor was actually a friend of Professor Kim's. To make matters worse, Han's girlfriend broke up with him, and he felt that his future was destroyed. He decided to apologize to Professor Kim in an attempt to redeem his job. However, when he opened the door to Kim's room, he was shocked to find his girlfriend with him. Not only had he been cheated on by his girlfriend, but he had also lost his career due to Professor Kim. As he walked home that night, a stranger approached him, asking for directions and confirming his identity. The stranger then stabbed Han with a Minecraft knife, burying him in a deep forest to cover up the evidence. Despite his pleas for help, the murderer ignored him, and Han overheard their conversation. Realizing that Professor Kim was the culprit, as he felt his life slipping away, Han suddenly heard a voice saying, "The spiritual eyes have opened." He was shown his status, which revealed that he had done many good deeds, earning him enough points to obtain a resurrection ticket with his 1,000 points of good deed, or a 100 points ticket to heaven. However, he had a time limit to make his decision and chose to Isekai'd to another world. The system assured him that his previous memories as a doctor would remain, and it would find the best place for him to perform his surgical skills. Suddenly, Han was absorbed into a bright light, and he found himself lying on the ground. To his surprise, all his wounds were healed, and he realized that he had Isekai'd to another world, one that was in the midst of a battlefield with many wounded citizens. As he gained the previous owner's memories, he realized that he was in the Three Kingdom period. Han examined one of the victim's wounds and realized that he didn't have any surgical gloves to perform surgery on them. Suddenly, a man ran towards Han and addressed him as young Master Huabu. Han was relieved to see that Wang Sam was okay and asked him to bring clean water, needles, and thread. However, Han soon realized that he lacked anesthesia and tools to check the victim's vital sign. He decided to perform a manual check on the victim with his bare hands. Upon examination, he discovered that the large intestine had been cut and that feces had likely spread into the abdominal cavity, requiring him to drain the stagnant blood. When Han received the thick needle and thread, he had no choice but to use them to stitch up the wound. A woman approached him, worried about her husband, and thought that he was going to die. Han reassured her that her husband was going to live since the wound wasn't that serious. He continued to save more victims, but unfortunately, he couldn't save them all. However, he was determined to save as many lives as possible from then on. After the incident, Sam Wang was relieved that Master Huabu was fine. However, Han knew that Huabu was dead already, and his spirit was now in this body. Han wondered if the bandits would be stopped by the soldiers, but Sam Wang mentioned that it was dangerous to try since rumors said that the bandits gave bribes to officials. Han realized that even this world was rotten, and during this chaotic period, there was no place in China without war. Han blamed the god or angel for transporting him to this timeline. Later that night, both of them reached home safely, and Huabu's brother met him and was glad that he was okay. Han worried about Huabu's mother, but was relieved to hear that she was finally asleep. Han decided not to disturb her and went back to his room, wondering where he should begin tomorrow. The next morning, Han woke up and realized that he is quite flexible in this new body. During breakfast with his brothers, he noticed that they only ate vegetables, which explained why this body was skinny. Second brother suggested that Han should learn martial arts for self-protection, and Han agreed, surprising his brothers with his willingness to change. Later, they visited their mother and then noticed that she was unwell, possibly due to liver or gallbladder disease. Upon examination, Han determined that she had cholecystitis, but he knew that performing the surgery to cure it was not possible in this era. Despite Han's medical knowledge, second brother was skeptical and mocked him for just reading a few medical books. However, the news of Han saving several victims the previous day convinced second brother to trust Han's judgment. Han realized that he had an ability to recall information about herbal medicine from the previous owner of this body, and he asked prescription from the physician. However, the herbal medicine only boosted vitality and would not cure their mother's disease. Han explained to his brothers that their mother needed surgery, which involved cutting open her stomach. The brothers were in shock to hear this. Second brother thought that Han is crazy, and the first brother is hesitate. Since Han resurrected using Hwabu's body, he makes sure that he can save Hwabu's mother. Second brother, thinking that Han is trying to kill their mother, and first brother never thought of cutting stomach to treat disease. Han told them that if they don't decide, mother will eventually die later. Second brother was angry and slapped him for talking nonsense. Han is angry as well and punches second brother is just a slight scratch on his face. Second brother decided to give him another slap, but stopped by first brother telling them how they can fight in front of their mother. Mother suggested that to try Han's first method, which is rude cornbeard, might give a better result than herbal medicine. Everyone agree and take their leave. Han thought that if he going to perform the surgery, he need the tools to do it. He could not let her mother to stay like that for too long. Bad thing may happen if they don't fix it. Second brother apologized to Han and praised Han that he almost landed the punch on him. Han asked for a sparring, and whoever win will granted their wish. They ready with their fighting stance. When the battle start, Han used boxing technique to throw a left-hand punch, but is easily kicked by second brother. Han fall down and stand up to fight back. After that, Han keep getting wrecked by his second brother. Second brother decide not to continue to fight anymore and give some thought about the surgery. Han was contemplating his next move. He needed a surgical scalpel, but more importantly, he needed an anesthetic. No matter how much he thought about it, he knew there was no herbal medicine that could replace anesthesia, and he needed a needle that was thinner than blood vessels. Additionally, he needed an assistant during the surgery, but finding someone willing to help in this era was going to be a challenge. To start, Han decided to focus on acquiring the surgical scalpel, but he needed money to make the necessary tools. He approached his first brother for an allowance and went to the market to look for a medicine shop. Han requested poisonous weeds from the shop owner to make an anesthetic, but the owner did not have any in stock. However, they agreed to harvest the weeds for Han at an agreed upon price. Afterward, Han ventured out to the suburbs of Kyoto country, where low-class people gathered, including beggars and the homeless. As he explored the area, he stumbled upon a crowd that had gathered around a man who seemed to have broken his leg. Han examined the man's leg and wondered if he could treat the large tear on the ligament and muscle caused by the broken bone, even without surgical tool. Han used the first aid kit to prevent the victim's leg from bleeding and examined it further to locate the broken area. He requested ice water from a villager, but since there were no fridges in that era, the villager agreed to bring cold water instead. As the victim's children went to fetch the water, a screen appeared on the victim's leg, which Han could only see, and it was as clear as an X-ray. After the screen disappeared, Han quickly fixed the broken bones, causing the victim to experience a lot of pain and become unconscious. The child was worried about his father, but Han reassured him that his father was fine and ready for the stitches. The villagers were impressed by Han's skills and called him a divine doctor. Han explained that he needed a lot of rats, and the victim's child offered to help him at a low price as a token of gratitude. Han thanked them and advised the child to use hard alcohol and a clean hot cloth on the wound every day. Later that night, Han bought a surgical knife that was thicker than a typical surgical knife but could be used temporarily. He went to the entertainment district to purchase hard alcohol and witnessed a rich man scolding a woman. When the guard intervened, the rich man slapped him, which enraged the guard. The rich man then took out a sharp object and slightly cut the guard's face, but the guard was able to disarm him quickly. Han observed the guard's injury and concluded that it was serious, but the guard refused his help and continued his work. Han purchased the alcohol and hoped to receive a discount if he kept buying from the store. He stumbled upon a room where he saw the injured guard lying on a bed. Han was hesitant to help him because he had been rejected before, but the colleague mistook Han for Physician Bong and welcomed him warmly. The guard realized that Han was not Physician Bong after seeing his face. Han rejected him, but the guard kneeled down and apologized to Han. Han agreed to help after the guard explained that he could not guarantee his brother's survival. Suddenly, Physician Bong arrived and examined the wound, discovering that the guard's facial vein was cut. Bong applied acupuncture to stop the bleeding, which caught Han's attention. Han observed how Bong used a needle to widen the muscle and put pressure on the blood vessel, thinking that acupuncture was a great medical art to learn. Bong instructed the guard to remove the needle after 15 minutes and hoped that the bleeding would stop. The guard suggested leaving the needle on his face, but Bong warned him that he would become blind or dumb. Han realized that acupuncture was only a temporary solution and that he could connect the blood vessels to solve the problem. However, he did not want to interfere with other people's business. Bong wanted to know more about Han's medical expertise and learned that he was a medical student. Han offered to help connect the blood vessels, and Bong agreed since the guard had a low chance of survival. Han took out a needle attached to a thread and began stitching, but the guard was in too much pain and shouted. Bong helped Han by using a needle on the guard's neck to relieve the pain. Han completed the stitching and instructed the guard to apply alcohol on the wound every morning and evening and remove the thread after 2 weeks. Both guards thanked them, but Bong thought the guard would die or become disabled sooner or later. Han asked Bong to teach him acupuncture, and Bong agreed, but only if Han would teach him how to connect the blood vessels and stitch up the skin. At night, Han returned home with bloodstains on his clothes, worrying his brothers. His first brother scolded him, telling him to focus on his studies instead of playing around as a physician. This angered Han, but his second brother came and decided to teach him swordsmanship since Han usually walked around without a sword and was defenseless in this era. Han began his training with his second brother. Han began with a slash toward his second brother, but the latter easily stabbed his heart. Surprised by the speed of the attack, Han stood up and decided to try again, this time using a fencing technique from his world. Although his second brother was surprised by the new stance, he easily parried Han's stab and knocked him down. Realizing he was too weak, his brother decided to teach him the basics first. He tied a rock to a tree branch and told Han to try stabbing it with his stick. However, he interrupted Han, telling him to stab it from specific line. He then demonstrated the technique with a swift dash and stab. Han tried to wait for the stone to finish oscillating before stabbing it, but his brother advised him to stab it while it was still moving, as no human would be stupid enough to stand still and let someone stab them. His brother set a goal for Han to succeed 3 times out of 10 consecutive attempts to finish the training for the day. Han knew he had to train hard to survive in this era where death was common. He had to become a doctor and endure the training. The next morning, Han woke up with more muscle and wondered if it was a buff from his resurrection. Bong treated him to some meat and showed him a needle that was inch perfect. Han wondered who the smith was who made the needle, and Bong mentioned that it was from Asiang Cheng country. Han then drew a Kelly, needle holder, and retractor and hoped the smith could make them, as these were perfect tools for stitching, holding blood vessels and spreading bones. Bong practiced the stitching technique on pig blood vessels and was good enough. Han mentioned that the blood flow differed depending on the blood vessels. After teaching him the technique, Bong taught him his acupuncture technique. Bong brought out a dummy body and explained the wind point to Han. Han thought that there were fewer points than expected and asked Bong if there were any more. Suddenly, Han awakened again and discovered modern acupuncture points, which were more numerous than the traditional ones. He was surprised by the screen that provided a lot of information and detail. Bong thought that Han was not serious about studying acupuncture, but Han denied it. Bong then gave Han the book of all acupuncture techniques to study for 4 days to memorize everything. Han had just left Bong's house with a book when he was spotted by his second brother. The brother asked if Han had finished his training, to which Han replied that he had completed 10 out of 10 successfully. Han promised to show his brother later and returned to his room to study acupuncture techniques. Through his studies, Han discovered that present acupuncture was different from modern acupuncture. He recorded everything he learned into his neurology acupuncture technique. Han then had dinner with his 2 brothers, but the first brother was displeased with Han for skipping breakfast and lunch. Han explained that he was studying acupuncture, but his brother was furious. He had sent Han to study abroad in Seoju to become a civil servant, not a physician. The first brother argued that their family should serve the emperor with the books and pearls of wisdom of their ancestors. Han insisted that he wanted to become a physician no matter what, and left the dinner. The second brother tried to comfort Han by suggesting they train to relieve stress and check Han's progress. Han showed his training by successfully landing all 3 stones, impressing his brother. His brother then showed him the 6 stone stabbing technique, assuring Han that mastering it would make him less vulnerable to bandits. Han and his brother began to spar, with Han using the stabbing technique and his brother easily dodging it. Han found a blind spot and tried to land his attack, but his brother still managed to block it. Han was surprised that his brother could block his blind spot. The second brother realized that Han had improved a lot and began to take the match more seriously. He suddenly dashed forward and landed a stab on Han, surprising him with his speed. Despite the loss, the second brother was impressed by Han's improvement and suggested they train more, but Han insisted on resting and going to the market the next day. Bong was at the smith, requesting the creation of an item for Han. The curious smith wondered how the tools would be able to treat people and who would need them. Bong told the smith that Han was a great young man. The next morning, Han went to the market to purchase poisonous weeds. The shop owner sold him the product, and Han was glad to find that there was enough of it to make anesthesia. Han traveled to the suburb of Kiao country once again to visit the patient with the broken leg. The patient welcomed him, and Han realized that the son had already captured a lot of mice. Han checked on the patient's leg and found that it was full of pus because it had not been disinfected with alcohol. Han took out his alcohol and used a cloth with alcohol to press the wound and disinfect the patient's leg. The patient was glad to see the alcohol but could not drink it due to financial issues. Han explained to the patient that the alcohol was to be used for disinfecting the wound, not for drinking. Han sarcastically told him that he could drink the alcohol if he liked it, but he would have to cut his knee in the future. The patient understood the use of alcohol and admitted he would not drink it. Han used the rats to conduct an experiment for anesthesia, but the mice did not want to eat the poison. Suddenly, the son came back and Han told him about the treatment for his dad's leg. Han asked the son, Obo, to work together with him and asked if there was any empty house for him to do experiments on the rats. Obo led him to an empty house where his grandmother and her granddaughters used to live. After the grandmother died, the granddaughters had to go to the brothel, leaving the house empty. Han realized that many people in the area were having a hard time too. They continued the experiment, but the rats did not want to eat the poison due to their instinct. They forced the rats to eat 5 grains of rice, which seemed to be effective, but slowly the rats died. They reduced the amount of rice to test each rat, but Han thought that it took too much time to experiment and asked Obo to help him continue the experiment, giving Obo 5 coins. Han left the empty house and went back home. Second brother tapped on Han's shoulder and suggested they train again. Han and second brother started their training and began sparring. Second brother dashed towards Han and used aura in his wooden stick. Han managed to block it, and second brother was impressed. Han wondered what the moving thing was, and second brother told him it was inner energy. Han was excited about the inner energy and asked second brother to teach him. Second brother insisted he train more first, and had managed to block a few of the inner energy attacks. Second brother was impressed that Han had made it to this level in just a few days, which had taken him years to train. Second brother brought Han to a restaurant since Han was tired of training. They ordered a lot of good food and alcohol. Han wanted to have a toast for the first drink, which is quite usual in Asian culture whenever they drink alcohol. But second brother was not sure what Han meant, but still cheered for it. Suddenly, a loud scream broke out as 2 men started fighting each other. The man in the blue clothes kept punching the man in the red clothes, and Han became worried that the red-clothed man would be in danger. Eventually, the red-clothed man fainted and lost consciousness, while his female companion cried for help. Meanwhile, the man in blue ran away from the scene. Han rushed to the fallen man and realized that he wasn't breathing and had no pulse. Without hesitation, Han began performing CPR on him, including mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. This surprised everyone around, who watched as Han tried to revive the man. After a final forceful blow to the man's chest, he suddenly woke up and started breathing again. The crowd was relieved to see him alive. The man was amazed and wondered how Han had managed to bring him back to life. The woman explained that the man in blue, Zhang Pan, had fled after seemingly killing him. The man in red was shocked to learn that he had briefly died and was grateful to Han for saving him. He wanted to repay Han and gave him a silver coin, although Han thought it was too much. Soon after, Zhang Pan returned with a physician and called the man in red, Sang-duk. They argued while Han and his second brother decided to leave and continue their meal. The woman explained to Sang-duk that Han had saved Zhang Pan's life. Sang-duk thanked Han for his heroic act and gave him 2 more silver coins as a reward. The physician was curious about Han's life-saving technique and asked him about it. Han explained that it was called cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, a medical procedure to revive someone by restoring their heart and lung function through pressure. The physician was amazed to learn that Han had learned this skill on his own. The physician asked Han to teach him CPR and offered to pay any price for the knowledge. However, Han declined the payment and instead asked the physician to visit Physician Bong's clinic. Han returned to his meal with his second brother, who expressed pride in Han's abilities and toasted to his future as a great physician. The next day, Han went back to the suburb of Kiao country to check on the rat he had left with Obo. He visited Obo's house and also checked on Obo's father, finding that his leg was well disinfected. Obo's father delivered a message to Han about the rat, informing him that the rat that had consumed 1 grain of rice had died after approximately 6 hours. Han considered this a problem, as it was too lethal for the rat. He took his leave and went to the empty house, contemplating his next steps with only 1 rat remaining. Soon, Obo returned to the empty house carrying a handful of grass. Han questioned what it was, and Obo explained that it was cannabis, also known as marijuana. Han discovered that cannabis contained a significant amount of the C-tetrahydrocannabinol and realized that he could potentially create an anesthetic with it. Han initiated an experiment by feeding the last rat with marijuana. The rat became unconscious, and Han attempted to wake it up by touching and flicking its stomach. The rat continued to breathe normally, so Han proceeded with a surgery on its stomach, successfully completing the sutures. After a few hours, the rat regained consciousness and stared angrily at Han, indicating that the experiment was a success. Suddenly, a little girl entered the house, seeking a physician's help. She requested Han's assistance with her mother, and Han examined her. He discovered that the mother had no signs of infection or fever, but appeared excessively thin and weak. Han gave them a silver coin, encouraging them to eat well for the next 2 months. Although they felt sorry for accepting it, Han insisted that they eat properly and repay him later. They expressed gratitude to Han and bid farewell. After returning to the empty house, Han expressed his concern that they couldn't continue living like this and emphasized the importance of being independent. Obo believed that as long as they worked hard and put in effort, they would be fine. However, Han interrupted him and stated that the main problem was changing the world without resorting to war. Obo expressed his wish for such a world to exist and aspired to become a good physician, like Han. Han teased Obo about his seemingly impossible dream, but still held hope that it would come true, and he asked Obo to be his assistant. Initially hesitant, Obo eventually decided to become Han's assistant. Han planned to take Obo to the cannabis field, but before they could leave, a crowd of people gathered outside, seeking their medical expertise. Han and Obo began treating each patient one by one until evening, successfully providing medical assistance to everyone. Obo grew tired but admired Han for being an excellent physician, and Han expressed his determination to visit the cannabis field despite the late hour. Later that night, in the house of a wealthy family, a man was drinking beer while overhearing rumors about a great physician. Initially considering it a joke, the man was informed by an informant that around 30 people had seen the physician's skills. The informant suggested that it would be best to discover the physician's true identity. The man, named Cho, worked as a government official and wondered if the physician could be an ancient immortal, disguised as a child. The next day, at Physician Bong's clinic, Han prepared to teach Bong and Seok about suturing blood vessels and CPR. Both Bong and Seok were excited to learn from Han and offered to pay for the education. Han hesitated to accept their money. Suddenly, a military officer interrupted them, seeking help from the physicians. The military officer explained the situation, revealing that they were engaged in a fight against bandits, and many of their soldiers had been injured. They urgently required the physician's assistance. Physician Bong and Seok decided to help, and Han joined them. The military officer led them to their tent, where they discovered numerous soldiers who were severely injured and on the verge of death. Cho entered the tent, wondering if the physicians were present. Physician Bong and Seok recognized Lieutenant Cho and hurriedly approached him, greeting him formally. Han also greeted Lieutenant Cho, impressing him with his young age as a physician. Cho had heard about Han's exceptional medical skills and asked him to treat a soldier. Han examined the soldier's wound. Han discovered a laceration on the soldier's thigh, and his rectus femoris muscle was damaged, but the blood vessels were fine. Han believed that if he could stop the bleeding, it would prevent the situation from becoming dangerous. Cho asked Han that could he able to save the soldier, and Han assured Cho that he can save him. Cho urged Han to hurry and save the soldier, but Han explained that he would treat him later, which angered Cho. He questioned Han as to why he had to treat the soldier later. Han pointed out that there were other patients with more critical conditions than the soldier, and provocatively suggested that Lieutenant Cho was being selective in choosing whom to save. Cho understood and let go of his anger, hoping that Han would save as many lives as possible. Physician Bong and Seok were impressed by Han's determination, although they wondered if Han's confrontational manner towards Lieutenant Cho was a death wish. Han, angered by their comment, instructed them to quickly treat the patients. As the battle came to an end, the villagers expressed their gratitude to Lieutenant Cho. However, as Cho was about to leave, he felt pain in his foot, realizing that he had stepped on a booby trap. He believed it was just a minor wound and wouldn't pose a significant problem. Back in the tent, all the patients had been treated. Physician Bong and Seok were tired and resting when Han suddenly interrupted them, instructing them to find any patients outside who still needed treatment. Meanwhile, Cho was being treated by another physician who assured him that the wound wasn't deep and should be fine. Cho thanked the physician but still felt uneasy, worried about the possibility of arsenic poisoning from the wound. Han was troubled by a disease called tetanus, as antibiotics had not yet been invented in that era. Although penicillin could easily solve the problem, it was not available. Han believed that feeding the patients with blue mold initially would be the solution. In the tent, Han explained to the patients that anyone who had been cut or stabbed by metal might be affected by metallic poisoning. The patients became scared and wondered if they would have to amputate their limbs. Han told them to consume blue mold, but warned them that if taken carelessly, it could be dangerous. The safest option would be to use molded breast milk from a horse. Han instructed them to drink 1 bowl of milk with blue mold in it once a day. The patients expressed concern about stomachaches from drinking it. Han sarcastically told them that if they didn't drink it, he could assist them in amputating their limbs. When Cho heard about this, he entered the tent and asked Han if it was true. Cho wondered if it was effective against metallic poison. Han assured him that it was true and could prevent tetanus. Cho then asked physician Bong for confirmation, but Bong was unsure. However, based on Han's capabilities, Bong believed that it was likely effective. Cho understood and left. Han realized that he had encountered many people who behaved like Cho before. He asked Cho if it was possible that Cho had also been affected by metallic poison. Han sensed that Cho was acting strangely and reflected on his past experiences where patients often concealed their diseases either due to embarrassment or to protect the person afflicted. In this case, Han believed it was the latter. Han probed further, and Cho admitted that his brother had fallen victim to metallic poison. Cho explained that his brother had cut his ankle. Han realized that merely cutting the ankle wouldn't be sufficient and that the spared tissue also needed to be excised before the condition worsened. Han took action and truthfully informed Cho that cutting the ankle alone wouldn't be enough. However, Cho, filled with anger, angrily smashed the wooden fence, asserting that the best physician in the region was already treating his brother and told Han to just do his job. Han felt disappointed and left. Cho returned to the tent to check on his soldiers and was astonished to find that most of them were still alive, including the troop leader Wu. Despite his stomach having been cut, Cho began to wonder if Han truly had saved this man. To confirm his doubts, Cho approached a soldier and inquired. The soldier confirmed that Han had indeed saved men who had been cut by swords, shot by arrows, stabbed by spears, and even a patient whose stomach had burst. The soldier went on to express that if he hadn't witnessed it himself, he would have believed that an immortal being had performed these miracles. Cho began to doubt himself for not trusting Han before, and wondered if Han could indeed treat his brother's disease. After a few days in the slum area, Han was observing a cheese into which he had inserted mold from the herbal medicine. Han broke the cheese, hoping it would become moldy. When he broke it, he found it had indeed turned moldy, and Han felt glad about the result. Obo asked Han what he was trying to achieve, and Han explained that he was making an antibiotic that could save a lot of people. Han contemplated the procedure for making it, and felt excited about creating an antibiotic that could target gram-positive bacteria. However, Han recalled that if a patient refuses to be treated, there's nothing he can do about it. A man was seen struggling and in pain while lying on his bed with his mother by his side. It was clear that the man was Cho's brother, and Cho was crying outside the room. Cho treated his brother with spoiled horse milk, and for a few days, his brother's condition didn't worsen. But Cho still felt uneasy that it wasn't curing him completely. When his mother was about to leave, she instructed Cho to bring Physician Song to treat his brother. Cho believed that Physician Song lacked the skill to help, but his mother trusted only renowned physicians. Recalling that Han might be able to assist his brother, Cho informed his mother that someone could cure the disease. His mother immediately ordered her men to fetch Han. At the empty house, the military officer approached Han and requested his help in treating Cho's brother. Han grabbed the penicillin and accompanied the officer. While riding on the horse, Han hoped there would be enough time left to cure Cho's brother. Upon arriving at their house, Han noticed that Cho's gait seemed unusual and wondered if he also had contracted tetanus. However, Han refrained from making hasty judgments and continued to follow Cho to his brother's room. Cho's mother spotted a young boy, Han, and questioned the whereabouts of the physician Cho had mentioned. Cho introduced Han as the physician he had spoken of. However, his mother grew angry that a young boy would take on the responsibility of treating Cho's brother. Cho urged his mother to trust Han despite his age, but she insisted that Physician Song should be the one to treat him and ordered Han to leave. Suddenly, Cho's brother began experiencing intense pain. Han knew it was too late to save him and departed. Upon returning to his empty house, the officer apologized to Han, explaining that Cho's mother had been a wise person until her son's condition deteriorated, which made her more sensitive. Han understood that her reaction was normal, and informed the officer that Cho's brother had only a few days left to live. The officer asked Han for his assistance, but Han stated that it was too late to save him, and no one could help anymore. He further questioned whether Cho had perhaps been stabbed with iron. The officer revealed that Cho had been injured by a booby trap earlier. Han suspected that Cho might also have tetanus and instructed the officer to have any physician examine Cho. After a few days, Han continued treating patients in his empty house when he was interrupted by the noise of a pig outside. Han was slightly annoyed and went out to check on physician Bong, who was practicing his suture technique. Han questioned why Bong had to do it there, and Bong explained that if he failed to treat the pig, at least it could provide food for the hungry villagers. Han admired Bong's compassionate heart and demonstrated the suture technique. Bong was impressed by Han's speed and continued his training, managing to suture the pig successfully, although it was too late to save it. In Cho's situation, Cho's brother had already passed away. Cho was furious with physician Song for failing to save his brother and expressed disappointment that the supposedly best physician in Chu country couldn't help. Their mother intervened and urged both of them to stop arguing. Cho regretted not insisting on changing the physician to treat his brother and slowly began experiencing symptoms of tetanus in his feet. Due to the pig's death, all the villagers gathered around the empty house to eat the meal. Suddenly, a new patient arrived. Having stepped on an iron spike, Han examined the patient and confirmed that they had tetanus. Bong informed the patient that the pus needed to be drained first, and if it didn't improve, they might need to amputate the ankle. However, Han assured them that it was still in the early stage and would be fine without amputation. Proceeding with his treatment, after 4 days, the patient's condition improved significantly, surprising Bong, who couldn't believe the swelling had subsided so quickly. He wondered about the treatment Han had administered. Just before starting the treatment, Han kicked Bong out. Bong pleaded with Han to let him in and offered him all his money, even expressing a desire to become Han's disciple. Suddenly, the military officer arrived again, informing them that Officer Cho had fallen ill. The officer instructed Bong to follow him, as per orders from his madam. Bong examined Cho and discovered swelling in his feet, suspecting it might be tetanus. Cho's mother was shocked to learn that both of her sons had been affected by the same disease twice, and she fainted as she was expecting her second child, who was also anticipated to die soon. Physician Bong examined the madam and found that she had only fainted due to shock, assuring that she would be fine. Cho then asked a favor of Bong. He did not want to die like his brother after having his feet cut off. Cho wished for Han to amputate his feet, as his life as a general would come to an end, but he could still live as a child. It was his final request. Unbeknownst to Cho, his mother was actually awake, and tears slowly streamed down her face. Bong informed Cho that he couldn't fulfill such a request, and Cho believed that his life couldn't be saved. However, Bong revealed that Han had been successfully treating tetanus patients without resorting to amputations. Cho's mother woke up, weeping, and asked Bong if what he said was true. The military officer returned to Han's house once again, urgently seeking his help. Han immediately accompanied the officer. Meanwhile, in Cho's room, his mother apologized to him for doubting both him and Han. Cho reassured her that Han would come and emphasized that Han always prioritized his patients. Suddenly, Cho's father entered the room and informed the family that he had found a renowned physician in Nakyang to treat Cho. Cho's mother quickly responded, telling her husband that an exceptional physician was already on his way. However, her husband remained skeptical and angrily criticized the previous physician who failed to save their son. He also dismissed the rumor that Cho had brought a child to examine their son, viewing it as a joke. Just as Han was about to enter the room, Cho's mother anticipated her husband's lack of respect and swiftly pushed him into a storage room, locking him inside. Han entered the room, and Cho's mother pleaded with him to save their son, Cho. Han approached her and reassured her that he could indeed save Cho. After the incident, Cho's mother unlocked the storage room and informed her husband that she had found a physician who could cure tetanus. She admitted her mistake in allowing their first son to die. Her husband was taken aback by this revelation. At the empty house, Han found it strange that Cho appeared fine despite the severe swelling in his feet. Han attempted to touch it, but Cho remained unaffected. Han was impressed by Cho's extraordinary resilience, realizing that most people wouldn't even be able to speak with such swelling. Cho explained that he was using inner energy, similar to Han's second brother. Cho asked if Han could truly cure his disease, and Han assured him that he could restore things back to how they were before. Han handed Cho a bottle and instructed him to drink it, comparing it to a strong alcoholic beverage that would help alleviate the pain. Cho felt proud, believing that he couldn't be knocked out by just one bottle. However, he immediately fell asleep after finishing it. Han began his treatment, donning a surgical mask. Upon waking up, Cho wondered if the treatment was complete. Han explained that only the basic procedures had been done. Han discovered that trismus had also begun, and it was only a matter of time before his entire body became stiff. Han needed to administer a large quantity of antibiotics, but without intravenous access, it would be challenging. Han realized he had to address the first problem, which was obtaining a syringe needle. Han asked Cho if he knew a skilled blacksmith, and coincidentally, Cho mentioned the same person physician Bong had mentioned, Pyo Chung. Han sketched a needle on paper and instructed Cho to order the blacksmith to urgently create the syringe needle. Cho relayed the order to the officer, who delivered the drawing to the blacksmith. The officer handed the drawing to the blacksmith, who wondered about the purpose of the needle. The officer explained that it was for treating Lieutenant Cho. The blacksmith sympathized with Cho's loss of his brother, but was assured that Cho would be fine because the great physician Han was treating him. The blacksmith was surprised to learn that Han was a renowned physician. Back at the empty house, Han grew concerned as Cho's feet deteriorated rapidly after he stopped using inner energy. He wished he had a syringe needle, but time was running out. Suddenly, Physician Bong and Seok arrived. Han was about to begin the treatment and instructed them to observe closely. Han began operating by making incisions on Cho's feet, causing blood to splatter. Despite the gruesome sight, Han remained focused on the patient, removing the pus and infected tissue. He was surprised by how quickly the infection had spread, forming an abscess. With no other choice, and lacking a syringe needle, Han decided to proceed without it. He carefully squeezed the vein and created a small hole, just large enough to insert the pig's blood vessel and allow the penicillin to flow in. Han progressed slowly and gently. Physician Bong and Seok were impressed by Han's surgical skills. Suddenly, Cho's condition became critical. Han hadn't anticipated such a severe reaction to the treatment and wondered if the muscle spasms were this severe. Cho's condition continued to worsen. Physician Seok held on to Cho, and Physician Bong immediately used his acupuncture technique to calm Cho's body. Han expressed his gratitude to both of them and continued with the treatment. After a few hours, Cho woke up and saw Han attending to another patient. The patient thanked Han for treating his tetanus, expressing his belief that he would have died from the disease. The patient attempted to offer payment to Han, but Han declined, reminding him of their previous agreement to accept herbal medicine as payment. Han explained that he had no intention of taking money meant for feeding families and entrusted Obo to handle the situation. Han returned to check on Cho and discovered that he was awake. Han shared the good news that Cho would not need to amputate his leg. Cho expressed his gratitude, but wondered how long it would take for him to fully recover. Han sarcastically insulted Cho for being macho and not revealing his disease sooner, resulting in a delayed treatment process. The patient returned to Han, offering payment in the form of herbal medicine. Han opened it and discovered another bag of money inside. He threw the money back to the patient. Cho questioned why Han didn't accept the money, and Han explained that it was nonsensical to deny treatment to those who couldn't afford it. Suddenly, Cho's father overheard their conversation from outside the empty house and left. Cho wondered if Han would refuse payment from him as well. Han laughed and found Cho amusing. After a few days, Cho's leg had significantly healed. Cho pondered if Han would have been able to save his brother. Han brushed it off, unsure of the outcome, but emphasized the need to focus on their current recovery. Suddenly, Han grabbed a stool and sat beside Cho, indicating a discussion about the treatment expenses. Following the discussion, Cho was shocked when Han expressed a desire to learn inner energy from him. Cho attempted to reject the request, as the art of inner energy was a secret technique exclusive to their family and not to be shared with outsiders. Han felt disappointed, and Cho felt guilty for not paying for the treatment. He asked Han why he wanted to learn despite being a physician. Han shared his near-death experiences, having been stabbed twice before, and expressed his belief that he should not die prematurely. He wanted to save more people with his medical expertise. Cho understood Han's perspective and promised to try to persuade his father to teach Han the art of inner energy. One night, Lieutenant Cho finally returned home and asked his father for something. His father asked about his son's condition and advised him to focus on recovering. He swore to pay for the treatment fee. Cho then told him that Han didn't want money. Cho's father was shocked that Han wanted to learn about their family's internal energy arts. However, he could already see that Cho had already decided. Seeing that it was not that absurd, Cho's father let him do whatever he wanted because their art was cheap enough to pay for one's life. The next day, the herb picker came to deliver more herbs to Han. He shared how tiring it was, knowing that the fields had spikes planted by bandits. Han saw a few nutgrass plants that could be used as a pain reliever for his mother. Despite knowing about the spikes, Han asked the herb picker to lead him to the field. The two went to the mountains and made sure to be careful with the spikes scattered around. Han could see that these spikes were meant for blocking the road. They continued to collect spikes until the herb picker screamed after seeing something. It was a dead person, and had noticed that they were not from the army. The herb picker found another body, and Han concluded that these people were bandits. He saw a box in the second body's hand. He opened it and read a letter that surprised him. He found it crazy. The herb picker wondered what was wrong, and Han made up a reason that they had only written down the next village to rob. Han suddenly told the herb picker to leave now. Han went back to his clinic with a basket full of spikes. He had collected them to be sold. He didn't know if the army was just pretending to fight bandits. Based on the records of the three kingdoms, he didn't know if Cho was related to them. Han then brought out the paper and showed it to Cho. He saw a list of the number of armies participating in a certain mission. Cho was infuriated after reading it. To keep it a secret, Han wrote on a piece of paper that he found a bandit holding the paper. They continued to converse by writing. Cho couldn't believe that someone was selling military secrets to bandits. Cho thanked Han for the crucial information and planned to repay him. He announced that he had gotten permission from his father to teach Han their family arts. Cho claimed they could start now, but Han threatened to cut his leg if his wound worsened. Han told Cho that anyone could notice his condition. He reminded him to fool his ally to fool his enemy. Seeing Han talk about military strategies, Cho wondered who Han really was. The next day, Han had a meal with his brothers and immediately left. The first brother wondered if Han would play physician again. Han claimed he needed to find an abandoned mine from a merchant group so he could make a certain decoction. The first brother offered money to borrow a mine, but Han refused because he had already earned enough. Han left, and his brothers wondered how he got the money when he didn't take money from the villagers. The second brother then told the first brother about the rumors of Han curing the lieutenant's tetanus. The first brother was shocked and asked if it was really true. The second brother had seen Cho coming in and out of the village. Han had also saved a lot of people. Even the famous physician song hadn't been able to cure tetanus. He also shared how Physician Bong was learning from Han, who was a well-known person in the county. However, the first brother wanted the youngest to be a scholar instead. The second brother disagreed, saying that with the Cho family holding all the positions, there was no chance to get in. The first brother excused himself so he could prepare for better results next year. The second brother knew that the first brother would acknowledge Han sooner or later. He then tried to recall where he had heard about Songhai Merchant Group and remembered the guy who had almost killed his friend, Song Jong Pan. A servant came to inform him that someone from the Hua family had arrived. Just when he thought it was a waste of time, he remembered the physician who had saved his friend and wondered if Han was going to ask for more money. He didn't want to recall the bad memories. He went out to greet Han, and they sat down for some tea. Han directly asked if he could borrow an abandoned mine. Song reminded him that he couldn't own the gold he might find. Han claimed he just wanted to store a medicine sensitive to temperature. Song wondered how Han could afford the price. They ate first, and Han could taste honey. He was happy to eat some sweets after a long time. Recalling Song's past mistake, Han expected not to be charged a lot. Song then asked for 100 coins per month. Han thought it would be for a year and stood up frustratingly, leaving. Han later returned to his clinic, and Cho could see that it hadn't gone well for Han. Just then, Cho handed him a box from Chung. The box contained the surgical tools he had asked for before. Han planned to teach Obo, his little assistant, as he could now perform surgery on his mother. Han goes home to check on his sick mother, who claims that the medicine prescribed by Han was much better, and then starts diagnosing his mother and checks the painful areas. Just then, Han's mother groans in pain. Han wonders why her small intestines have hardened. The complications are progressing rapidly. The bile juice isn't flowing well and accumulates in the small intestine. It shouldn't be like this if it's only cholecystitis. There must be another reason. Han realizes and checks if it is the liver. Han asks his mother to lie on her back. He thinks it might be due to fatty liver. This is becoming difficult for Han. His mother confesses that she is always tired despite sleeping all the time, and then starts checking her calf. He uses acupuncture to buy some time. He knows his mother will have an acute attack in 3 to 6 months from now. As he wonders how his mother has a fatty liver, a servant arrives with some medicine. Han asks the servant for a talk. Outside, Han asks if his mother has been drinking alcohol. The servant denies it while being flustered. If there is alcohol, There must be a side dish. Han then asks the servant what side dish his mother eats. She confesses that it was pork fat, making it the worst combination ever, and now knows the cause of his mother's fatty liver. Han goes back to his mother's room and bans her from alcohol and meat. His mother tries to deny it, but Han warns her about how it can affect her current condition. Han promises to earn more and buy her beef. Han leaves and fully realizes that he doesn't have much time. He needs to teach Obo quickly. Later, Han goes to Lieutenant Cho's household. He feels awkward that he always refused money for the treatment fees. He greets Cho's mother. She notices the bandit spikes and menacingly asks Han why he brought them. He wants their household to buy the iron spikes. He tells her that he picked them up to lessen tetanus cases. At the same time, he wants to sell them for a higher price. Han feels burdened by receiving a lot of money from them. Cho's mother claims that it won't still be enough after hearing Han treat the poor for free. Han claims he doesn't need the payment for basic treatments and checkups. He now asks the madam for help because more people need herbal decoctions. He wants to open a proper clinic to attract wealthy patients. That is why he is selling the iron spikes to the Cho household for a higher price. The madam now knows that her late son's words were true about someone with talent who can do great things. She brings out the payment for the iron spikes and tells Han not to complain about the price he didn't set. Han receives 100 Yang silver coins. The madam hopes that Han will not only use it for his patients. Just then, Cho appears and drags Han away. He orders someone to tell the Hua household that Han won't be coming home today. The afternoon comes, and Cho has just finished telling the story of their family's immortal Chief Flo. Cho warns Han not to tell anyone about their family's art if he doesn't want to experience divine punishment and become an enemy of the Cho family. Cho then immediately demonstrates how to breathe as if he is pulling the sky and land. Han grasps it and quickly imitates Cho. After an hour, Han feels out of breath and senses his stomach burning. Cho tells him not to overreact and checks Han's abdomen. He is surprised when he feels Han's inner ki and becomes flustered by Han's natural talent. Han thanks him and promises to keep training. Cho is genuinely surprised at how talented Han is, merely by imitating what he has seen once. He wonders what kind of kid Han is. Meanwhile, a busy Chung is visited by his sworn brother, Park. Park needs his sword from Haiyan Wei to be sharpened. Chung is happy to see that Park has been promoted. However, Park plans on stepping down. Chung wonders why, and Park shows a scar on his abdomen. Chung wonders how his brother survived. Park claims it is all thanks to a young physician called Hua or Han. Chung recalls the divine physician who treated Lieutenant Cho's tetanus. Just then, some other visitors arrive. A military officer enters with Han and introduces him to Chung. The two besties recognize his name. Han introduces himself, and Park immediately bows down to thank him for saving his life. Park informs him that he was the one with the torn stomach. Han remembers him and suddenly checks his wound to perform a post-checkup. Han recalls Park's intestines gushing out before. Chung can't believe that Han saved someone with severed intestines. Han confirms Park's additional symptoms of having black feces and smelly farts. He claims that his intestines are still healing and that he will be fine in time as long as he doesn't consume alcohol. Park wonders if he can drink for tomorrow's celebration, and Han agrees to pour alcohol on his tomb later on. Park easily changes his mind, and Han tells Park what to eat from now on. Han also gives him a pill to prevent intestinal wound infection and tetanus. Park gets scared and wonders if he got it, but Han assures him that the medicine is for all infections. Chung can't help but be impressed in front of the young physician. He respectfully greets Han. Han thanks Chung for his tools. Because of him, a lot of lives are saved. Chung can't believe that he made a contribution to saving lives. Chung then wonders if Han can really cure tetanus. The officer assures Han's skill by using Cho as an example. Han wonders if Chung got tetanus. Chung claims it was the other blacksmiths. Han wants to see their conditions first. Chung asks for the cost of treatment. Han notices Chung's hesitation. Han then asks the officer to fetch Obo. Chung tells Han that they will go to his clinic instead. However, Han wants to check on them immediately while he can. Soon after, Han sees 5 blacksmiths who are supposed to be infected by tetanus. Chung starts pointing out their symptoms and claims that there are more who can't get up. Han can see that this is quite a mess. They go to a room, and Chung starts waking up the other blacksmiths. Just when Chung is talking about the cost, Han asks Chung to make more surgical tools, and he will take them as treatment fees. Chung wonders if that is enough. Han then asks for another favor. He needs Chung's dexterity that can save the others. Just when Chung gets motivated to work, Han notices something. One of the patients doesn't have tetanus. If it is tetanus, he should still be able to bend his back. Han then checks on the patient's side, and the patient groans in pain. He realizes that this is appendicitis and confirms it after using his strange skill. Han mentions how the patient will die at this rate. The patient asks Han to save his life. Han claims it will be dangerous, but there is a way to save him. Han needs to cut open his abdomen and remove a part of his intestine. Chung assures the patient that Han did the same to save Park. Appendectomy surgery is quite easy, and it only requires a small area to open. However, Han is lacking tools. Chung confirms with Han that it will take him 4 days to complete the tool. Han is anxious that 4 days are too tight. Chung claims that he got another set of tools since Bong secretly asked him to make the exact thing. The old man is caught red-handed. Chung hands the tools to Han and claims that he will make another set for Bong later. Chung tries to tell Han about the patient's wife, but Han stops his backstory because he needs to focus and do his best for the patient for now. Meanwhile, a physician named Song arrives at a tavern. He smirks as he hears that a lot of patients have come to see him. He knows how famous he is as a doctor and looks down on Bong and Seok for not keeping up with him. Physician Song then gets greeted as a guest and asks for his favorite courtesan. However, he gets mad when he hears that she has already been booked. He is suggested to choose another woman, but he insists on his favorite one. The host then asks Hisu, a young girl, to call Song's favorite girl. Song smirks as he watches the girl leave and asks for her instead. However, the host refuses because Hisu is still a child. In the hallway, Hisu meets her sister, and the girl gives Hisu a snack for working overtime. She gently laughs and reminds her sister about their grandmother's death anniversary. Her sister confirms that the madam gave them permission and would even provide some guards. The two go their separate ways, and Hisu still finds it good news to go home. Morning comes, and it notices how nervous Obo is. He smacks Obo. Obo is just worried that he will be able to do a good job, and tells him not to worry and just to follow his instructions. For now, Han tells Obo to do his best to assist him. Chung has readied everything, and Han reminds Obo not to be nervous again, and also brought a pig's bladder as an artificial manual breathing unit. Han then starts the surgery and slices the patient's abdomen. Han asks for a cauter, and Obo quickly assists. Seeing that the blood is stable, and there is less fat, Han thinks the surgery will be easy, and commends Obo's dexterity. Han can't feel well with his hands, and he wishes to have a portable X-ray. Just then, his strange power activates and shows the appendicitis. He wonders what triggered his power. Just then, Obo notices that the patient is not breathing. Han quickly grabs the pig's bladder and starts pumping air into the patient. Afterward, Han skillfully stitches the cut on the patient, and Obo watches carefully with amazement. In this situation, other people would think that the patient is dead for sure. Moments later, Han asks Obo to prepare the forceps and needles. They will continue the surgery once the patient starts breathing again. The patient starts breathing, and Obo can't believe what he is seeing. He finds Han's recent achievements to be amazing. If the patient lives, then Obo is witnessing the medical arts of God. The surgery ends well, and it tells the patient not to drink water until he farts. The patient cries as he thanks Han. Obo can't believe the patient has been saved. He wants to learn how to save dying people too, and become a doctor who saves lives. Just then, Han commends Obo and asks him to do well next time. He wants Obo to be prepared. Obo happily agrees and runs toward Han. Chung arrives and can't believe that cutting open the abdomen saved his colleague. Han is the real deal. Chung thanks Han and notices that he is not carrying any weapons during these dangerous times. Han agrees and confesses that he is learning sword art for self-defense. Chung finds this timing perfect and walks toward a wall. He picks up one of the swords he made and gives it to Han as payment, and tries to refuse it, but Chung claims it's a perfect sword for him. Han might not use it to kill, but it will be helpful. As a blacksmith, that will make Chung happy. Han then accepts the sword. The next night, physician Song hears about Cho getting tetanus too. Song laughs, assuming that they will call him for help. The courtesan claims they won't call for Song. Song doubts because he is the best doctor around. The courtesan claims that another doctor cured Cho's tetanus infection. It was too much of a surprise for Song. He exclaims that the infection can't be cured unless they cut his leg. The courtesan claims the physician was Huabu, the third son of the Hua family. Song hasn't heard of him and thinks that Han is just playing doctor. The courtesan wonders what will happen if Cho hears Song's words. Song falls silent, slams his cup, gets mad, and leaves. He feels bothered hearing the name Huabu. Meanwhile, the young physician from the rumors is training his inner ki. With the energy in his fist, he punches a dummy target. The target splits in half, and Han is surprised that it worked. Morning arrives, and in the Cho residence, Han demonstrates his inner ki to the colonel. Cho observes a genius standing before him and commends Han. Cho wonders if Han is interested in martial arts. Han claims that a doctor doesn't need to learn martial arts, but Cho views it as a waste. It typically takes a year for someone to manifest their inner ki, but Han is an exception due to his natural talent. Han realizes that he should have concealed his abilities and jokingly wonders if he can split a thick board after a year. Cho laughs heartily and approaches a boulder. Manifesting his inner ki, Cho smashes the boulder while asserting that Han can achieve this feat in 3 years. He encourages Han to train harder. Suddenly, Cho remembers that they have some work the following night. The next day, Han returns to the Cho residence and complains. Chung appears, and they greet each other at the gate. Charcoal has been delivered to the Cho residence, and Chung was asked to inspect it. They enter the residence and notice many merchants, including Jong Pan. Chung begins examining the charcoal, and Jong Pan recognizes Han. Cho appears and asks if they are ready. Jong Pan is surprised to learn that Han is close to the colonel. Cho introduces Han to his cousin, Hu Chan from the Ministry of War, also greets Han, having heard of his reputation as a great doctor. Jong Pan can't believe what he is seeing and wonders why the Hua family hasn't collapsed yet. Just then, Jong Pan's father arrives, and Jong Pan claims that he knows Han. His father recalls that the Hua family is collapsing. Jong Pan goes to greet Han, and his father sees this as an opportunity to get closer to the Cho family and the renowned blacksmith Chung. Jong Pan acts friendly toward Han, and Chung wonders how they know each other. Jong Pan explains what happened to his friend weeks ago. Han agrees, but Chung senses Han's discomfort around Jong Pan. Jong Pan then brings up the abandoned mine, surprising Han. Han tries to leave, stating that it is too expensive. However, Jong Pan offers it to him for free if Han can connect Chung to Jong Pan's family. Jong Pan eagerly anticipates good news and departs. Han smirks as he plans to take action. Soon after, Jong Pan's father is furious that none of their products were delivered right after he spent a fortune. Even his close acquaintance is refusing his money and wondering what is happening. He wonders what Jong Pan talked about with Han. Jong Pan confesses that he will rent the clothes mine for free if Han puts in a good word to the head of the blacksmiths. Jong Pan's father flips the table out of frustration and claims that Chung was equal to a noble. He gets mad that Jong Pan gave it out to them as rent only. He calls his own son crazy and tells him to get his hands off their business. Jong Pan falls to his knees and begs for a second chance, tears streaming down his face as he pleads for forgiveness and promises to make things right. Meanwhile, Hee-soo and her sister have won, are ready to set out back to their hometown. So-shan, their guard, tells them to set off now. They have traveled quite a distance, and Hae-won wonders how Obo is doing. They arrive at So-shan, but Hee-soo sees a lot of people in front of their house. Looking around the area, the guard can see the place with lots of patients. He wonders if Hee-soo sold the house, but she claims that she was renting it. She didn't expect it to turn into a clinic, and the guard finds it strange. Hae-won sees Obo, and they greet each other. Obo introduces them to Han. The guard notices something and follows Han. He wonders if he is the young physician Wei. Han wonders what is wrong, and the guard removes his hat. He turns out to be Han's very first patient. He thanks Han for helping him live well now. The guard wonders why Han has set up a clinic in this kind of place despite being a great physician. Han claims that it is natural for a doctor to stay by his patient's side. Afterward, Hee-soo and Hae-won learn that Han was the one who cured tetanus. The little assistant continues to brag about his master's achievements. Obo also mentions how he is learning to be a physician. Hee-soo then asks if Han can cure someone infected with syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease. The guard shouts at Hee-soo and gets mad at how she just revealed the matters of the entertainment house. He exclaims that the madam will get mad. She shouts back at the guard and exclaims that she doesn't want to watch Seal die. The guard gets mad that Hee-soo also revealed the name. Han calms them down because there are other patients around. The guard expresses how he pities Seal too, and assumes that syphilis is incurable. Han swears to keep what he heard a secret and asks for the patient's symptoms like skin abscesses and hair fall. Hee-soo grabs Han and tells him that the symptoms are getting worse now. She cries as she asks if there is a cure for it. The syphilis bacterial is a typical gram-positive bacteria. Penicillin works, but Han needs to check which symptoms one has. If it is only skin lesions and mucosal disease, then it is in the secondary stage and still curable. However, in the third stage, then Han really needs to check the patient's condition. Han is not sure yet, but he needs to check the patient himself first. Hee-soo then asks to save Seal, but the guard stops her from talking. She can't bring a physician without the permission of the madam. Han will just be inconvenienced if the madam refuses him. He suggests waiting for the madam's permission first. Meanwhile, Colonel Cho arrives at the magistrate's office and meets the magistrate's assistant, who greets him with admiration for his exceptional prowess in both literary and martial arts. Impressed by Cho's reputation, the assistant willingly grants him permission to access the document room. Cho enters, determined to uncover the identity of the traitor leaking information to the bandits, suspecting it to be one of the county officials. He meticulously examines the answer sheets, meticulously scrutinizing the handwriting, in hopes of finding clues that will lead him to the culprit. Unbeknownst to Cho, a suspicious person notices him. He wonders whether Cho has stumbled upon something. The suspicious person leaves the office to report what he has seen to the elder. Back at the Hua residence, Han unsheaths the sword he got from Chung. He is amazed by it. Knowing he is ambidextrous, he plans to hold one sword in each hand. However, he hasn't mastered swordsmanship yet. He wonders how to ask Cho to train him. Just then, his second brother, who looks dejected, returns home. He claims his master is back and he is training hard for next year's military service exam. Han commends his hard work while thinking about how much his brother endured. Just then, his second brother notices Han's swords. Han claims that Chung made one for him. The second brother easily recognizes its perfect balance and how expensive it is. Han claims they got it as gratitude for treating the blacksmith. Han's brother realizes it is a treatment fee. Han retorts his statement and claims that it was a forced gift. Han's brother wonders what kind of patients he treated, and then confesses that he treated patients with tetanus and one with madman disease, the case of appendicitis. Han's brother is shocked that his little brother saved people from their deaths. He can't believe Chung, a man known with a bad temper, gave away a sword as a gift. He wonders if the exaggerated rumors are true all along. It was Han's plan to spread the rumors rather than saying it directly to his first brother. He wants to convince them to do their mother's surgery. Han's brother then asks Han to check on his master's granddaughter. Han thought it was about their mother. The master has been looking for a physician for his sick granddaughter. However, he won't say anything to people. Luckily, the master heard about Han's treatment of Cho's tetanus. Han's second brother is sure that after this, their first brother will approve of Han. The guard, Hisu, and Have-Won return to the entertainment house. The madam can see that the sisters look brighter. The guard tries to excuse himself, but Hisu steps in to ask if the madam knows the physician named Hua Bu. The madam had heard the rumors. Hisu then explains that she met him and saw that he has been treating people for free. The madam wonders why Hisu brought him up. Hisu mentions that Han might be able to cure syphilis. The madam's expression darkens. On the other hand, an elder receives a report that Cho has been snooping around. He can't believe that they are in danger because of one foolish bandit. The man then offers to get rid of Cho. The elder reminds him that Cho is not someone to be looked down upon. The man insists, but the elder tells him that it is useless. It would be dangerous to mess with the Cho family. The elder then asks for information about Han. The man confirms that Han collected the iron spikes and sold them to the Cho family for 100 silver coins. The elder finds the price absurd and thinks it is a price for the evidence. The man then suggests moving and killing the Hua family. The elder tells him that the Hua family is not worthy of being exterminated. He just wants Han's head. Back at the entertainment house, the madam asks Hisu if Han really knows about syphilis. Hisu tells the madam that Han needs to check on the patient personally. The madam wonders why, when one is sure to die with syphilis. She claims that no one has successfully cured syphilis. However, the madam heard that Han is not a foolish person. She heard about Han's feats of saving soldiers on the brink of death and Cho's tetanus case. She wonders if Han can really cure syphilis. The guard steps in and suggests calling Han for a house call. He reminds the madam of how Han saved his life, which even Song gave up on. He claims it will be beneficial for everyone if Xiao gets treated. The madam expresses her sadness that she has been deceived many times after thinking that Xiao would get better. She cries as she can't give up on Xiao. Xiao was named the third generation beauty of the county. A huge line would always pay just to see her face. She was a woman of unmatched beauty. The madam visits Xiao. Xiao grabs the madam and cries out that she has already held on for so long. She doesn't want to be a burden to the madam anymore. She wishes to be killed while she is still sane. The madam tells her that she has already called for a physician and that she will spend money. She asks Seal not to utter those words again. She hoped that she wouldn't die and prayed for Seal to regain her senses and listen to her carefully. The madam mentioned that even the best doctors in the world hadn't been able to cure Seal, but they would struggle together to find a doctor who could. Sho entered So-Bang's residence in search of him, ordering his men to locate him. Riding his horse, Cho sensed that someone was helping him and felt the urgency to hurry. He wondered if Godong or Sudong was the culprit as he continued his search on horseback. Arriving at the residence, Cho tried to find Godong and Sudong, but he learned that they had been sent out for work on So Bang's orders. Cho suspected that So Bang was up to something. He inquired about their whereabouts and was informed that they had gone to Gadeokyo Bridge. Wondering why they went there, Cho realized that the bridge was near Han's clinic and became concerned for Han's safety. He immediately rushed back to rescue Han. Meanwhile, Han visited the concubine's house to treat Seal. The madam welcomed Han and informed Seal that she had brought the doctor with her. Seal agreed and took a bronze mirror, encouraging herself to stay strong and expressing her hope that this doctor would be different from the others who had avoided her. Han entered the room and gently patted Seal's shoulder, advising her to lie down as he understood her discomfort. She complied and lay down on the bed while Han checked her pulse. Through his examination, Han discovered inflammation in her lower area and the opening, realizing that she experienced pain during bowel movements. Seal was surprised that Han knew about her symptoms. Even the madam was taken aback, as most doctors would check under her skirt. The madam was astonished that the young doctor knew about her plum wounds. Han prepared to begin the treatment, which would be his first time using a syringe on someone in this era. He applied medical penicillin, conducted an AST test, and found no issues. Han proceeded to inject the syringe into Seal's hand. The madam was surprised that Han didn't react with shock when he first saw Seal and touched her so casually. Han explained to the madam the daily treatment plan, which involved someone wiping all the wounds on Seal's body and applying medicine on a cotton cloth. Han entrusted the treatment to the madam and prepared to leave. The madam was grateful to have found a doctor like Han, and Seal was deeply touched by the doctor's care. She decided to trust Han fully in his efforts to cure her disease. Cho rode his horse in a hurry to reach Han, while Godong and Sudong discovered his rush and quickly informed Baekhyun about it by sending a pigeon. They prepared themselves to join Baek as well. Back at the clinic, Han returned and was informed by Obo that someone had been waiting for him. A man approached Han and pleaded for his help to save his wife, who had not come with him. Before agreeing to go with the man, Han asked for the patient's name. The man revealed himself as Baekhyun. Han felt hesitant but eventually agreed, concerned that the man's wife might be in critical condition. However, Baek's sinister smile remained on his face as he continued to plead with Han. Han followed Baek into the forest, but thankfully, Obo offered Han his sword and advised him to bring it along in case of bandits in the area. They proceeded cautiously, and upon finding the pigeon, Baek received the message from Godong and Sudong. Han began to feel suspicious of Baek, but was informed that his wife had fainted and they needed to return quickly. Han continued to accompany Baek, who suggested taking a shortcut through the mountains. As Han's suspicions grew, he observed Baek's well-developed shoulders and muscular proportions, which didn't match those of a typical businessman. Han needed to confirm his suspicions, so he pretended to sprain his ankle and requested assistance to lift himself up. Upon noticing Baek's warrior-like hands, Han pretended to reach for acupuncture needles, but instead drew his sword. Baek immediately created some distance between them, realizing that Han had discovered his true identity, and he too drew his sword. Baek attempted to stab Han, but Han skillfully dodged the attack and retaliated with a slash. However, Baek managed to evade the strike as well. To Baek's surprise, he realized that Han, a doctor, possessed remarkable sword-fighting skill. Baek acknowledged his mistake in underestimating Han. Han realized that Baek had a similar aura to his second brother, indicating that Baek was a formidable opponent, and Han couldn't afford to let his guard down. He attempted to slash Baek, but Baek easily dodged the attack, recognizing that Han was still a beginner in swordsmanship. Seizing the opportunity, Baek tried to stab Han. In that moment, Han awakened his inner energy, and his legs suddenly empowered him to swiftly dodge backward, surprising Baek with his swift movement. Taking advantage of the situation, Han swiftly dashed forward and slashed at Baek, who attempted to block the attack but had his sword cleaved in half. Han followed up with another strike and successfully defeated Baek. He immediately applied medicine to his wound and sewed it to prevent further bleeding. Sudong and Godong, witnessing Baek's defeat, attempted to join the fight, but discovered that Baek had already perished. They were astonished by Han's combat abilities as a doctor. Spotting an opportunity to escape, Han ran towards the light emanating from the forest, realizing that he was near the forest's edge. Upon reaching the villagers outside, Han sought their help, but they mistook him for a bandit due to his sword, and fled in fear. Left with no other choice, Han continued running to evade Sudong and Godong. Recognizing that he wouldn't be able to outrun them in his current condition, he decided to confront them head-on. Han swiftly dashed towards Sudong, slashing at him and effortlessly defeating him. Godong was shocked to witness his friend's quick defeat and wondered about Han's true identity. Han swung his sword at Godong, but Godong skillfully blocked all of Han's attacks. However, Godong noticed his sword starting to get damaged and knew it wouldn't last long. Han swiftly dashed towards Godong, aware that time was running out. With a precise strike, Han managed to slice Godong's sword in half. Realizing he couldn't win without a sword, Godong decided to flee. Han tried to prevent his escape, but Godong cunningly grabbed a child and held her hostage. Godong attempted to intimidate Han by threatening the child, but Han reacted swiftly by throwing a sword in Godong's direction. As Godong turned his head, the sword impaled him, putting an end to his threat. Just as Han thought the danger was over, Cho arrived to rescue him and was amazed at Han's ability to defend himself against two martial artists. Cho urged Han to return to the village, but Han insisted on checking the child's well-being first. Seeing that the child was unharmed, Han comforted her and assured her that everything would be all right. Cho admired Han's compassionate nature. Upon their return to the clinic, Obo tended to Han's wounds while Han requested a private conversation with Cho. Sensing that Cho knew something, Han inquired about it. Cho explained that the bandits were after Han, making him realize the seriousness of the situation. Despite Cho's offer to hire a guard, Han knew it wouldn't be enough since they couldn't protect him at all times. Understanding Han's concerns, Cho made the decision to personally teach him sword techniques passed down through his family. This relieved Han's worries. As they further discussed the bandits, Han carefully thought about the situation and realized that the bandits used carrier pigeons for communication. Cho was shocked, realizing that the bandits must have significant resources to afford such a method. It became clear to them that the bandits were not ordinary criminals but part of a larger and well-organized group. Realizing the gravity of his predicament, Han understood that his life was at stake. This caused Cho to worry, and he initially suggested hiring 2 bodyguards but quickly changed his mind, suggesting 3 instead. Han knew that the bandits wouldn't easily let him go and might even target his family. In order to take control of the situation, Han proposed setting up a trap. The elder, Lord Yu, became angry upon hearing the news that 3 of his men had died, unable to believe that they had been defeated by a mere doctor. The bandit explained to the elder that their mission had failed due to Colonel Cho's interference, which also resulted in the destruction of their magistrate's office. Additionally, the bandit informed the elder that the peace line was set to arrive in 10 days, causing the elder to worry and consider taking the hayak, an antidote, to avoid the situation. Despite his reluctance, the elder decided not to reprimand the bandit and instead ordered him to eliminate 10 of their men to eliminate any evidence, specifically demanding the head of Huabu, Han. The bandit expressed concern for his colleagues, but the elder made it clear that sacrifices were inevitable. Meanwhile, Han visited Seal again to treat her wounds, using his syringe for injections. Han informed Seal that her treatment was almost complete, which filled her with gratitude as she thanked him. The madam felt relieved upon seeing Seal's improved condition, but still wondered how Han planned to fix Seal's facial scars. Han surprised them by stating that he would work on removing the scars. Seal was touched by Han's commitment, wondering how she could repay him. Han jokingly mentioned that not paying for something, known as Sinpa, was prohibited. While he couldn't guarantee complete removal of the scars, he promised to do his best to help her. Han began applying acupuncture techniques to Seal's back, causing her to feel shy and her heart to race. The madam was impressed by Han's skill as a doctor and also surprised that he remained unfazed by Seal's naked body. As the treatment progressed, the madam noticed Seal's expression and realized she had developed feelings for Han. Han completed the treatment and instructed Seal to dress. The madam playfully teased Han for suddenly becoming shy. Han explained the next steps of the treatment, informing Sal that she could start using ointment from the following day, hoping it would speed up her recovery. The madam jokingly expressed anticipation for Seal's treatment the next day. Returning to his clinic, Han found Ghana, his bodyguard hired by Colonel Cho, waiting inside. The following day, Han contemplated the approaching end of autumn and the cold weather, realizing he needed to prepare a room for winter. He also pondered the historical event of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, aware that he would soon be treating more warriors. Realizing he needed to take action, Han decided to go to Jongwon to further his medical knowledge. As he prepared to cross the bridge, a rushing carriage approached, posing a danger. The carriage accidentally collided with a child, sending the child flying into the river. Han witnessed the incident and hurried to provide first aid to the child, who had fallen into the water. The carriage had callously ignored the injured child, and Han immediately took action to rescue him. It became apparent that the child's name was Dang, and his father anxiously approached to check on his well-being. However, Han halted the father, explaining that any improper handling could worsen the child's condition. Examining Dang, Han noticed his abnormally fast pulse, pale complexion, and cold body. Suddenly, Dang's stomach began to rapidly expand. Han realized that the child was suffering from hematocelia, a condition where the organs or blood vessels in the abdomen burst, potentially leading to shock or death due to blood loss. Understanding the urgency, Han knew he had to act swiftly. The rider of the carriage stepped out to assess the situation while Dong's father grew angry and threw a punch at the rider. However, the rider effortlessly defeated Dang's father. Han developed a deep disdain for the rider. But the situation took an unexpected turn when a man inside the carriage ordered the rider to stop. This man turned out to be the rider's master. The master instructed the rider to give them the money and leave. Focusing on treating the child, Han urged Dang's father to seek Obo's assistance and bring him to the clinic. Han carefully carried the child back to his clinic and instructed Gona to prepare clean water. Soon, the carriage arrived at the clinic, revealing it to be the same one from before. The rider inquired about the doctor's whereabouts, but Han, filled with a murderous intent, ordered him to leave. Han tasked Gona with preventing the rider from disturbing him. Gona approached the rider, scolding him for speaking informally to General Gona. Meanwhile, Han discovered that the child's organs had ruptured, unsure of the next steps to take. Suddenly, the familiar screens appeared before him, indicating internal bleeding in the lower left abdomen. Han knew where to make the incision. Just as Obo arrived, Han instructed him to wash his hands and prepare for surgery. The rider realized that Han was the doctor and requested treatment for his master, but Gona intervened and instructed him to wait outside. Angered, the rider attempted to fight Gona, but Gona easily kicked him away. The master emerged from the carriage and ordered his rider to cease his action. Gona soon realized that the man before him was none other than Master Go, a member of one of the most esteemed family. Gona hadn't expected someone of such high status to visit their village. Master Go demanded that Gona step aside and allow him to enter. Curious about Han's identity, Master Go inquired if he was a doctor. However, Han firmly instructed Master Go to wait outside as he was currently in the middle of treating a patient. This angered Master Go, who scolded Han for failing to understand his own position as a mere doctor. In response, Han advised Master Go to seek another doctor, considering his disrespectful attitude towards Han's expertise. Han even managed to diagnose Master Go's condition, recognizing the presence of a plum wound with just a glance. Master Go interpreted Han's response as a death wish. Aware that Master Go must hold great importance or wield significant power given his behavior, Han expressed his hope that Master Go would find a more suitable replacement for his medical needs. Han emphasized that without treatment, Master Go would not survive beyond 2 months. Han meticulously explained all the symptoms, starting from their onset until their potentially fatal consequences. Feeling insulted by Han's words, Master Go arrogantly mentioned that he could seek Shi Yui, a doctor who served the king, to treat him. In response, Han simply told Master Go to find Shi Yui for his treatment and face the reality of his imminent demise within 2 months. Master Go, filled with anger, stormed outside, but couldn't help but recall how Han had successfully treated Seal's plum wounds. He began to consider that perhaps Han could provide him with the treatment he needed as well. Master Go decided to exercise patience and allow Han to attend to his medical needs. However, a dark thought crossed his mind. Once his treatment was complete, he would destroy the entire village. As Master Go contemplated further, he became curious about the seriousness of the child's condition. He returned to the clinic and witnessed Han performing a live surgery, cutting into a person's stomach and skillfully suturing the wound. Master Go couldn't comprehend the type of treatment Han was employing. Feeling the urge to urinate, Master Go ventured outside in search of a secluded spot. He despised the inconvenience caused by his illness, as many doctors avoided treating him due to his plum wound. After relieving himself in the depths of the forest, Master Go returned to the clinic, determined to keep a close watch on Han in case he began treating him. Suddenly, Dang's father arrived at the clinic, anxiously inquiring about his child's condition. Han reassured him that the surgery had been successful and that his child was fine. This unexpected revelation surprised Master Go. Master Go entered the clinic to check on the child and was pleasantly surprised to find that the child was still alive. Realizing that Han was truly skilled despite the rumors, Han instructed Master Go to lie down so he could examine him. Master Go complied, his mind focused on receiving treatment for his plum wound. Han swiftly completed the urgent treatment and informed Master Go that he would need to visit the clinic every day starting from tomorrow. Master Go agreed and tossed a bag of money towards Han. Master Go explained that he wasn't paying for medical expenses, but rather for witnessing something remarkable, Han's ability to save the child by performing the stomach-cutting procedure. General Gona was relieved that everything turned out well, but Han felt uneasy about the situation. Gona provided insights into Master Go's background, highlighting his status as a member of the most powerful family in the defeated country. Han soon realized that Master Go was akin to the owner of a large conglomerate, while Colonel Cho was merely a governor, and Master Go held a higher rank. Recognizing the trouble he was in, Han reluctantly decided to treat Master Go. He handed the bag of money to Obo and instructed him to give it to Dang's father as a settlement payment. Meanwhile, in the concubine house, the madam was astonished to see Seol's facial condition improve in just a few days. She believed that Han possessed god-like healing abilities. Seol expressed her desire to no longer be a Kisayang, a slave entertainer, once she fully recovered from her plum wounds. The madam wondered how Seol would earn a living, and Seol expressed her aspiration to become a doctor. The madam suspected that Seol's desire to become a doctor was influenced by Han and asked if Han had mentioned anything about teaching her. Understanding Seol's intentions, the madam candidly shared the reality that if Seol pursued becoming a doctor alongside Han, it would be met with disapproval. The madam advised Seol not to cling to Han's ankle and suggested that if Seol truly wished to be with Han, she could enter the organization that the madam was a part of. Their conversation was interrupted by Han's arrival. They were thrilled to see him, and Han entered the room inquiring about Seol's condition. The madam was surprised that Han had arrived early, and Han explained that he had to visit the Phantom Pavilion later to treat Manhwa. Seol's jealousy flared as she imagined Han using acupuncture techniques on Manhwa's back. Han intended to start Seol's treatment by applying ointment, but Seol attempted to seduce him. Angrily, Han reprimanded Seol, instructing her to behave properly. Seol obediently complied, disappointing the madam. Seol desired to help Han in any way she could, but knew she was limited in her abilities. She resolved to enter the Ha-O sect, an organization that could potentially aid Han. A new waifu has appeared. After Han finished treating the patient in his clinic, Han's second brother arrived to his clinic and needed Han's help to save his master's granddaughter, cause her condition getting worse and she could not move anymore. Second brother explained the symptom about her for hard breathing and her chest will hurt. Han think that it is a high possibility to have pneumothorax due to her practice martial and gone through excessive breathing. Han agreed to help and go take his tool. They arrived to the master's house. The master welcomed them and his granddaughter also greeted them and introduced herself as Banhee, which attracted Han that she is pretty. Looks like Han going to have harem series. The master greeted them to go inside the room. Banhee started to have difficulty of breathing again, and Han knew that she being a tall and slim are more likely prone to pneumothorax. Han took out his stethoscope, but it is just a bamboo stick in this era. Han listened to her breathing in her right lung, and her chest doesn't go down when she breathes out in chest pain and shortness of breath. Definitely, it's pneumothorax. Han wondered how long her disease was, and her grandfather explained that it's almost a year. Han found out that she might be in danger and have to move to medical room, and also found out that she might possible to have cyanosis, which when someone inhale 83% less oxygen due to difficulty of breathing, and the skin may turn bluish purple, which is visible most in the lips. The master asked Han about her granddaughter condition, and Han explained that her right lung has damaged and her lung is touching her heart, and warned them to stop her chai training. Han think that is better to do the immediate treatment. The master hoped Han the best that he could cure his granddaughter and order the carriage to bring his granddaughter to medical room. Suddenly, Ban-hee's chest started to feel pain. Han examined Ban-hee again and discovered she might have a condition called tension pneumothorax, where the pressure in her lung was putting too much strain on her heart, and decided to start the treatment right there and instructed Obo to prepare distilled liquor. First, Han asked Ban-hee to remove her coat, revealing that she had bandages on her chest, which explained the rapid deterioration of her condition. The master expressed his desire to witness Han's treatment as he couldn't leave his granddaughter's side, and Han agreed. Han took out a syringe needle and asked Obo to watch closely. He carefully inserted the needle between Ban-hee's second and third ribs under the collarbone, and they heard the sound of air escaping from the affected area. Ban-hee's breathing started to sound more normal, which was a positive sign. The master was amazed by Han's medical skill, which he had never seen before. Obo had anesthesia ready, and Han prepared to make an incision with his flat iron. The master felt fortunate to have taken Han's second brother as his disciple, as it allowed Han to treat his granddaughter. Meanwhile, Han's second brother anxiously waited outside, biting his fingernails. The surgery went well, and Han informed the master that neither blood nor pus would come out the following day. Once clear liquid started flowing, they could tie the tube. The master expressed doubt in his own abilities but hoped that Han would take good care of Ban-hee. Han explained that he had a short-tempered patient coming to visit the next day, possibly a high-ranking official. Understanding the situation, the master bid Han farewell. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside the room. They rushed out to check and found one of the master's disciples holding a suspicious man captive. Surprisingly, the suspicious man turned out to be Han's bodyguard. Han's second brother became worried and questioned why Han had hired a bodyguard. Han revealed the bandit situation to his second brother, who scolded him for not informing him earlier. The master suggested that having 2 guards was better than 1 and instructed his disciple, Yu-jin, to stay by Han's side temporarily. Yu-jin introduced himself as a senior to Han's second brother. Han realized that Yu-jin, based on history, was a general who brought stability to distant lands. Han was surprised to have the 3 kingdoms Yu-jin as his guard, but he gladly accepted his presence. Meanwhile, the elder, Lord Yu, was begging a masked woman named Hua Dang for forgiveness. While Dang scolded the elder for his failure in the mission and sacrificing more than 10 people to cover it up, Hua Dang suggested giving up the plan and questioned Lord Yu's insistence on killing Han. Lord Yu explained his plan to ambush Master Go, making it appear as if a military officer had attacked him, thus creating a rift between the Go family and the military. Hua Dang was intrigued and wondered how Lord Yu would execute the plan. Lord Yu revealed that he intended to use Han. He explained that Master Go would visit Han's clinic, accompanied by a few guards, making it easier to handle. Dang agreed, and they decided to execute the plan the following day. Dang rewarded Lord Yu and expressed her hope for his success. In the snowy day, Han patiently waited for Master Go, who was running late. Meanwhile, Master Go was on his carriage, eager to see Han again and get rid of his disease. He was grateful for the progress he had made and wanted to meet Han as soon as possible. Suddenly, an arrow was launched towards Master Go's carriage, narrowly missing him. The bodyguard quickly sprang into action, shielding Master Go and instructing the rider to seek a safe place. However, another arrow struck the horse, causing the carriage to topple over and crash to the ground below. The rider, though shaken, managed to escape unharmed and immediately rushed to rescue Master Go. Back at the clinic, Han and General Gona began to worry about Master Go's whereabouts. Just then, the rider arrived, bringing along the injured Master Go. Han was shocked to see Master Go's condition and knew he had to treat him immediately. They swiftly placed Master Go on a bed, and Han noticed the significant bleeding from his head. He asked the rider about the cause, and the rider explained that Master Go had rolled down a cliff after the carriage was attacked. Han realized that Master Go's temporal artery had been damaged, which is responsible for carrying blood from the heart to the head. Han reached for the anesthesia to numb the pain, but unfortunately, Master Go accidentally broke the bottle. With no other option, Han had to proceed with the surgery without anesthesia. Han and Obo began the surgery, while the rider anxiously watched over Master Go. Han told the rider to stay focused, assuring him that Master Go would be fine. Han was angry with Master Go for breaking his last bottle of anesthesia and believed that he deserved to experience the pain of the treatment. Meanwhile, Lord Yu apologized to Hua Dang for failing to kill Master Go. Hua Dang expressed her indifference towards Master Go's survival. As long as they succeeded in framing the military officers for ambushing him, she eagerly anticipated the chaos and turmoil that would follow. After the surgery, Master Go peacefully slept. When he woke up, he became furious about the incident, irritating Han. Han decided to use acupuncture needles to make Master Go fall asleep again, concerned that an increase in his blood pressure could lead to burst blood vessels. Shion-1, a physician from the Go family, thanked Han for treating Master Go. One was impressed by Han's medical skills, particularly his ability to connect blood vessels and cure syphilis. One wondered if Han was the true embodiment of Shen Nongyan Emperor, the father of Chinese medicine. Captain Pyong reported to Master Go that the people behind the assassination attempt were military officers from Cho's army. He presented evidence such as arrows, bows, and a military plaque to support his claim. Han believed that military officers who would leave behind their weapons and plaques were foolish and insane. He suspected that someone was orchestrating the situation and believed that the main problem was that Master Go did not realize that someone was manipulating events. Master Go pointed at General Gona, recalling that Gona had mentioned being a military officer, and demanded to see his military plate. Gona showed his military plaque, which was identical to the others. Master Go asked for Gona's thoughts, and Gona expressed that anyone could forge a military plate, so he couldn't conclude that the assassins were military officers. Growing impatient and furious, Master Go ordered Captain Pyong to arrest General Gona. However, Yujin intervened and urged Master Go to calm down and not take it out on innocent people. Master Go questioned Yujin's identity and rudeness towards him, asking who he was. Yujin simply introduced himself as Han's bodyguard. Master Go noticed Yujin's incredible aura and wondered who Yujin's master was. Although Yujin couldn't reveal his master's name, he showed his judicial sword to Master Go, who recognized its significance. The judicial sword is a sword that the emperor gives to his meritorious servant for their extraordinary contribution. Just by possessing it, one will have an authority second to the emperor. He will be forgiven for any kind of crime except for treason. Master Go was about to say all hail, but Yujin swiftly intervened, reminding him not to reveal his identity. Master Go composed himself and apologized for losing his composure. Han was taken aback by Master Go's almost bowing gesture and began to wonder who Yujin's master really was. Han visited the concubine house again and overheard that Seal was experiencing stomach pain. However, it turned out to be a ruse, as Seal had something important to discuss with Han, and felt relieved that she wasn't actually in pain and wondered what was going on. Seal informed Han about a manor called Taiping Manor, located an hour away from the prefectural office of Han Cheng. She had discovered that the three men who had previously attacked Han had frequently visited that place. Han became suspicious about Taiping Manor, recalling its historical association with the Yellow Turban Army. In his historical knowledge, Han also remembered that the Hayao sect organization was known for having highly credible information. Han considered the information provided by Seal to be valuable, but he pondered whom he could share it with. The only person who came to mind was Lieutenant Cho. Han expressed gratitude to Seal and promised to treat her to a meal once this issue was resolved, which delighted Seal greatly. Back at the clinic, Master Go explained everything about Han to Physician 1, highlighting Han's ability to cure tetanus and enteric diseases. Physician 1 marveled at Han's extraordinary skills, recognizing that Han was not just a skilled individual, but far beyond that. Master Go was equally impressed by Han's ability to cure renowned incurable diseases. Master Go had not expected to encounter an incredible physician and someone who possessed the judicial sword that's serving as Han's bodyguard. He felt indebted to Han for saving his life twice and acknowledged his immense gratitude. The following day, Han treated another patient who appeared malnourished and underweight. The patient wondered what disease they had, but in reality, their condition was simply due to malnutrition. Han felt helpless because he couldn't provide them with money to buy food every time. Observing the situation, Master Go grew curious about Han's sigh of frustration. Han expressed his desire to purchase some grain, which made Master Go concerned about Han's own family, the Hua family, who were living in poor conditions. Master Go offered to provide the grain for free, but Han clarified that it wasn't for himself, but for the starving people in the village. Master Go understood and accepted it as a treatment fee for his own medical treatment. He ordered Physician 1 to arrange for warriors to deliver the grain. Han felt overwhelmed by the amount needed to feed all the villagers, but Master Go reassured him not to worry, assuring Han that he had the means to feed everyone. He encouraged Han to focus on finding a way to cure him faster. The next day, all the villagers gathered around Han's clinic to receive the grain provided by Master Go. Han and Yu Jin were surprised by Master Go's behavior and wondered if people had changed so much after hitting their heads. Inside the clinic, Han and Master Go discussed the previous incident. Han shared the information he had about the typing manner and advised Master Go to investigate the issue together with Lieutenant Cho. Master Go agreed and mentioned that if the nest of assassins was indeed located in typing manner, he would reward Han separately. Han humbly declined the reward, but Master Go insisted, stating that every action comes with a price. Before leaving to meet Lieutenant Cho, Han came up with a better idea and shared it with Master Go. Master Go then visited Lieutenant Cho's prefectural office, expressing his anger over the previous incident. Lieutenant Cho came out, confused about the situation. Master Go presented General Gona, whom he had captured, and questioned why a military official had tried to assassinate him. However, a man from the crowd suddenly left, and Master Go's subordinate reported the development to him. Master Go immediately stopped scolding Lieutenant Cho, hinting at his knowledge of Han's plan. Lieutenant Cho quickly grasped the situation and invited Master Go inside the office for a cup of tea. Meanwhile, in typing manner, a man reported the events to Lord Yu and Hua Dang. Hui Dang was pleased with the unfolding events, hoping that Kiao country would fall into her hands. However, their plans were disrupted when Lieutenant Cho arrived at typing manner, forcefully breaking down the door and ordering his men to capture them. Lord Yu and Hua Dang were shocked by Lieutenant Cho's presence and hastily gathered their belongings to escape. In the basement, they hurriedly ran through the hidden escape route, but when they reached the door, they realized they had lost the key to open it. Frantically, they searched for another way out. In a desperate move, Hua Dang tore off her clothes and ordered Lord Yu to tie her to a pole, buying him more time. Lord Yu discovered something in her pocket and stole it before leaving. Returning to the door, Lord Yu was relieved to be free of Hua Dang's presence and admitted that he hadn't actually lost the key. He opened the door, making his escape peacefully, and hoped to never be involved in such matters again. The military officers captured everyone inside the typing manor and rescued Hua Dang. In her final moments, Hua Dang praised herself for her acting skills, but her triumph was short-lived as an arrow pierced her heart, causing her demise. The arrow had been shot by Lord Yu, who was satisfied that he had eliminated the evidence. The following day, Han was in his clinic, relieved that everything had been resolved peacefully. The villagers were no longer starving, and the issue with Taping Manor had been resolved. Master Go had also calmed his anger. Suddenly, Han heard a familiar sound. It was his second brother. His brother informed Han that their mother's condition had become critical. Han realized that the time had come and instructed Obo to accompany him. As Han prepared his tools, he felt his hands trembling, a reaction caused by Haobu's body sensing their mother's critical condition. Han reassured Haobu that there was no need to worry, as their mother was also his mother. He vowed to do everything in his power to save her, while his actual spirit patted Haobu's shoulder. In the Hua family's house, Physician Bong was treating Hua's mother. The first brother pleaded with Physician Bong to treat their mother, but Bong explained that he couldn't do anything for her. The first brother wondered if Physician Song could help, but Bong dismissed the idea and stated that only Han could cure her. The first brother was taken aback by Bong's statement. He sought confirmation from Bong about Han's ability to truly heal their mother. Bong affirmed that if Han couldn't cure her, then no one could. Just then, Han arrived with Obo and his second brother. Bong briefed Han on their mother's symptoms. She had been suffering from vomiting and had been put to sleep using acupuncture needles. Han understood her condition and realized that her disease had worsened. He found it strange that either her small intestine or large intestine had become swollen. Han hoped that his clairvoyance skill, which had been activated before, would work again. He clenched his fist tightly and prayed for it to happen. Slowly, Han felt his heart beating rapidly, and the clairvoyance skill awakened once more. He could see inside his mother's stomach and discovered that she had acute cholecystititis. Han relayed his mother's condition to his brothers, stating that he needed to perform surgery to open her stomach. He sought permission from his first brother to proceed. The first brother hesitated, but he recalled that their second brother trusted Han and Physician Bong had faith in him as well. Eventually, the first brother agreed and hoped that Han would take care of their mother. Suddenly, their mother woke up and expressed her pride in Han, mentioning how he had saved many people and cured tetanus. She noticed Han's worried expression and reassured him, expressing comfort in the knowledge that he would be treating her. Han promised his mother that he would cure her. Han composed himself and focused his thoughts, reminding himself that this surgery was not difficult and that he had to succeed. Suddenly, an aura emitted from Han's body, gradually transferring to his mother. Han instructed Bong and Obo to begin the surgery. He first made an incision in his mother's stomach and used a soldering iron, asking Bong to assist in holding the cut skin and widening the opening. Bong marveled at Han's magnificence, realizing that he was witnessing something different from when Han had treated the soldiers. It was as if Han could see through the body, akin to looking at his own palm. Bong recognized that Han was a divine doctor himself. Han successfully removed the mesentery, exposed and ligated the cystic artery and cystic duct. He ordered Obo to wipe away the blood and prepare the next soldering iron. They had managed to stop the bleeding, and Han used the soldering iron again, applying it to the gallbladder. Han had successfully passed the most dangerous phase of the operation, and now he had to detach it. Han detached the gallstones from the gallbladder and discarded them. Han knew with certainty that he would be able to save his mother. First and second brother anxiously waited outside the room, worrying about their mother and hoping that Han would be able to cure her. Suddenly, the door opened and Han emerged from the room, removing his surgical mask. He informed both brothers that the surgery had been successful. Relief washed over them, and Han, feeling a sense of immense relief himself, fell unconscious. This surprised both brothers and Physician Bong. Physician Bong checked Han's pulse and reassured them that he was fine, explaining that Han had simply fallen asleep out of relief. The brothers felt relieved upon hearing this from Physician Bong. Han's spirit suddenly found itself in an empty realm, wondering where he was. Then, the spirit of Huabu approached him. Han wondered if this was Huabu's original spirit. Huabu bowed his head to Han, expressing his gratitude for saving their mother. Han realized that Huabu had worked hard all this time and patted his spirit on the shoulder. Suddenly, Huabu's spirit disappeared, signifying that Huabu's spirit could now rest, knowing that their mother was fine. Han woke up in his bed and wondered if what he had experienced was just a dream. He turned his head and saw that his mother was, well, thanking God for it. First and second brother visited Han, expressing concern for his well-being. Han assured them that he and their mother were fine. The first brother apologized to Han for not trusting him all this time and thanked him for saving their mother.